Everybody, coming at you with my much longer review of Masters of the Universe. Those who follow, which is again like 225 of you now. Hey, most of that, of course, is people trying to hawk cryptocurrency for me, or like 5 accounts all spoofing the same creator that I follow. So hey, anyway, if you're like, hey, I just need a break from hawking cryptocurrency for a while and trying to get people to buy into it, I just want to take a brief breath here and hear about Masters of the Universe, then please, by all means, welcome. So obviously, you know the premise here. We're trying to watch 100 movies this year. Um, and so I'm trying to see everything I possibly can that comes out at all of my local theaters. I have Regal Pass, which has been a blessing, obviously. Um, and then we have art cinemas and various other places. So I'm trying to get in as much as I possibly can. So I do the minute ones just so you can, the people just want to hear kind of the overview. But I started doing these because I'm a person who loves going to the movies. I've always loved going to the movies since I was little. Um, and I just like to process my thoughts. So this is just a place for me to process, right? So welcome for all of you. So let's process Masters of the Universe. And I gotta tell you, like a lot of people, I think I went in with pretty low expectations. Having remembered the '80s movie with Dolph Lundgren, not particularly growing up in the '80s necessarily like a super fan of He-Man, the cartoon series. Obviously, you couldn't exist in the '80s and not know what He-Man was or have some of the toys. Know what She-Ra was. I mean, obviously, for history teachers out there, this is a great teaching tool if you're teaching about the '80s to really talk about my generation. And again, I'm 1977, so I'm either Gen X or millennial or the hybrid, whatever you want to go with on that. But the idea that in the '80s, the Reagan administration lifted the ban on length of advertisements towards children. And so a lot of these toy companies like Kenner and Mattel um, were able to create toy lines and then sell them basically to us on Saturday mornings because we were Saturday morning addicts, right? I mean, those are the best times. Cartoons from like 6 to noon, just sitting around with your cereal. You had ABC, CBS, NBC, and then, Saved by the Bell came along and California Dreams, and because they wanted to compete with Fox and 90210 and teen based shows as we grew older. But it was basically half-hour commercials for toy products, and even like greeting card companies. Like I think about Care Bears, the Get Along Gang, were basically just greeting card premises, and then they turned them into half-hour cartoon vehicles. And look at kind of the juggernaut that the Care Bear still is. And poor Get Along Gang should still be out there somewhere. I still have the Get Along Gang caboose. I loved the Get Along Gang. Anyway, like the Snorks and the Wuzzles and Shirt Tails and name a cartoon, right? And so He-Man, Transformers, GI Joe, Pound Puppies, Cabbage Patch Kids, all part of kind of this marketing gimmick where we would see these shows. They would say, here's how these characters act, and then go buy the toys so you can uh, follow those storylines and play the way that we would like you to play. And it was kind of a genius marketing strategy. But so like I said, I wasn't necessarily like the biggest fan of that because I was into a whole lot of other cartoons. But obviously, we had the toys. We picked up Castle Grayskull at a garage sale once on a bargain. Had most of the toys. It still had the working trapdoors and all the stuff. It came with the ship. We picked up Snake Mountain at another garage sale at one point. And that was the coolest one, right? Because it had the little snake microphone where the wiry sound, you're like, oh, who's in my place? And the chomp, you know what I'm saying? My brother and I set up this massive backyard complex of '80s toys, right? We had this whole big yard and we dug out canals and rivers and lakes and set up Castle Grayskull in the middle. And then we had like G.I. Joe doing battles in the ditches, and like Tunnel Rat was tunneling through. It was a whole big thing. And obviously, once the rain came, we lost a lot of good toys out there in the battles. Somewhere out there in the backyard is Shipwreck somewhere. We have gold-headed Destro somewhere out there. So anyway, that being said, I knew of He-Man. I had seen the Dolph Lundgren movie, and I saw what He-Man had become and all these things. And so I went with very low expectations of the film. They gave a lot of backstory for that, but I think an 80s history lesson is really good as a history teacher to tell you what these movies can mean and how you can utilize them in class. Maybe that's what we need to do as well. It's just, hey, how would this be a good tool for class? Um, it was just fun. Like I said in the minute long thing, it was just a fun vehicle, right? I was so happy when I left the theater. It was just sometimes movies can be fun and you can just enjoy yourselves. And I did. And there was a lot of laughs in it. There was the great stuff about, kind of a family movie where there were jokes that landed well and didn't land well, but there were jokes aimed at children. There were jokes aimed above the children for the adults who were to keep them entertained in the movie. Like I said, in the minute long, this cast is stacked with people, right? Like Idris Elba and Alison Brie and Camila Mendez and oh my goodness, on and on and on. And Jared Leto doing a phenomenal job. You could just tell he loved being Skeletor. And the way that he played Skeletor, and even obviously with the eyes and things that were part of the special effects, but just the way he carried himself, the way his voice was, so much fun. And you could really feel the whole cast just enjoying, like, there was probably not a lot of pressure, right? And you could just feel them liking hanging out with each other, liking acting with each other. Just yeah, it's a silly premise, obviously, right? But it's fantasy, and that's sometimes you just have to suspend your belief. Is it any sillier than say Labyrinth or Dark Crystal and stuff we grew up on? Lord of the Rings, a lot of these great movies, right? And the thing I love, like I said, about these properties of these repurposed properties is how they play nostalgia for us, the older people who grew up on these things. So there's a lot of things, right? There's a lot of Highlander references, for instance, and I love that. And then they played the Highlander theme song. There's a lot of Easter eggs for us to say, hey, come along with us. We're not going to hurt your property. We're not going to hurt your childhood. And obviously, give some spoiler alerts here. So if you want to run away really quick so you can't hear this, I'll wait for you. All right, they're gone. Dolph Lundgren in the locker room passing the torch was so great. It was a lot like, obviously, like I said, the Brady Bunch. When you bring back original Brady Bunch members, or 21 Jump Street, Anaconda, bringing an Ice Cube, just passing the torch so you know that the cast is okay with this. You're not betraying anybody from the past because they are also buying in on the idea. And so it's just fun. And then there's just a lot of self-awareness in these films to know kind of how things have changed over the last 40 years and pointing those out in tongue-in-cheek ways, setting He-Man in an HR office with business dialogue, who hasn't been in that kind of professional development moment and fish out of water. And it's so great. And the soundtrack was fun. And like I said, just a joy. You can't go to this movie and not feel joyful afterwards. About I just sat, I ate popcorn, I enjoyed myself at the movies again, and it's a step forward. And in the '80s, we had a lot of these movies, right? We grew up with these movies that were just there for us to have sheer entertainment in the summer. Like Goonies, right? Ghostbusters, Gremlins. I could go on and on with this, but I would just say that uh, the writing in it was fun. The directing was fun. I was shocked to find out the director and the writers all worked for like animation studios, which I love. Those animation too, and they do bring that kind of sense of whimsy to the film. Um, it's just fun, and I can't wait for the sequel. Watch for the three stingers at the end. Obviously, they set up hopefully a future of this. Hopefully, enough of us go see this that we can keep this thing rolling because it's good to laugh and it's good to have fun. And obviously, if you want to take social messaging in this as well, you can definitely see a lot of themes that are playing out in our own universe into what it is. So there you go, Masters of the Universe.